I should start off by saying I'm ashamed of what I'm about to tell you. I told myself I would take this to my grave, but the weight of it is becoming too much for me to bear on my own. I need to share this with someone else, or it will eat me alive. Greg and I weren't bullies, quite the opposite, in fact. I got beat up all the time, and he took his share of it as well. But there was one kid that we did pick on. Maybe just to make ourselves feel better for the crap that we had to take every day. Melvin had a speech impediment. A stutter. Not only that, but he was always full of joy and excitement. Talking constantly and dragging it on forever as he tried to get the words out. He was a know-it-all, a tattletale. All the things that made kids like us who felt down and out want to make him feel the same way. So we tortured him. Not literally, of course, but we definitely weren't nice. It was much more pleasant with him when we were on our own, since the two of us were sort of friends in a way that's only possible when you're kids. Adversaries and chums at the same time, somehow. But when my friends were around, I joined them in treating him like total shit. The fact that it was accepted behavior within my social group made it feel like we weren't even doing anything wrong by treating him so poorly. We were terrible. One time, Greg, Ryan, and I told him to meet us at the park. We said he should bring his bike, his baseball glove, his bat, his baseball, his basketball, and 2 tennis rackets. And then we hid in the forest and watched, laughing, as he rode around the field calling our names, struggling to maintain his balance on the bicycle he was riding, overloaded with far too many items to carry. Another time we hid in a tree and did something similar. We watched him from a few feet away as he looked for us passing by beneath and asking my brother where we'd gone. That time I actually felt too bad and climbed down after a little while and told him we'd just been kidding around. Of course, Greg got pissed off at me for not keeping the prank going, and he went home. The kid was gullible, so we would mess with him again and again. It was almost too easy. Once my brother made a phony Visual Basic program. This was the 1990s, the age of dial-up modems, BBS, bad haircuts, and neon clothing. And he set the whole thing up professionally and made it look like the software for the Pentagon. Then we showed it to Melvin, who screamed and ran away horrified when my brother began to click the fake buttons to bomb the Middle East and to crash the stock market. The kid actually went and hid under the blankets on my bed, thinking the police or the FBI were coming for us. I don't know whose idea it was to go into the forest that day with Melvin, but I remember we had it all planned out before we met up with him. The forest was large enough that you could walk for hours through it. And the 3 of us, Melvin excluded, did that all the time. We knew it like the back of our hands, and we knew that he didn't. Did you guys hear there's a wolf that's been seen wandering around the forest? Greg asked in his most serious voice. For real? Melvin asked. Yeah, man. We better be careful out here. Don't want to run into a wolf in their natural habitat. They'll eat you alive. We walked and talked for a little while longer, until we were at the spot where we'd planned to leave him. I'm going to go take a leak, said Greg. He wandered off into the woods just as we had planned. We're at least an hour away from the entrance to the forest, and I like to believe that Melvin could have made it back on his own. But we wanted to test that theory. Like I said, I'm not proud of myself. We wanted him to be scared. That was true. The sun wasn't far from the horizon. It'd be setting soon. He had already said he wanted to head back any minute since his mom told him not to be late for dinner. Time passed, and for a while we waited in silence. "What the hell is taking him so long?" Ryan said, feigning annoyance. Screw it. I gotta go too. I'm gonna go see what the problem is. He's probably taking a dump." He walked off, and I could see Melvin's body language change. I wondered if he knew what was going on. The two of us waited in awkward silence for a few minutes, and as the time passed, I began to suspect he was not going to let me leave him. He was shifting on his feet and trembling, and he looked scared. I was starting to feel scared too as the sun began to go down and the light began to fade. I had watched a movie with Tim Curry playing a certain terrifying clown a couple nights before, and memories of it were still haunting my dreams and waking life. "Man, I gotta take a leak really bad, actually," I said as casually as I could. I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to go home while there was still some light left. The thought of being out in these woods at night suddenly terrified me. "No, you can't leave me alone with the wolf." "Man, you'll be fine. Just be a minute." I tried to walk away, and he grabbed my wrist, squeezing it tightly. "Don't leave me here. Please. Are you guys messing with me again? I don't know if I can find my way back." I pulled my arm away from him and began to walk quickly in the direction Greg and Ryan had gone. He hurried after me, shouting at me not to leave him. "Just give me a minute, will you? I need some privacy, man." He looked stunned and hurt when I glanced back over my shoulder, but he had stopped. His eyes showed that he didn't believe me, but it didn't change the fact that he was listening to me regardless. As I neared the tree line, I expected to see Ryan and Greg waiting for me, getting ready to make a run for it as we had planned. We were going to leave him out in the woods, I'm more than ashamed to admit. We figured he could find his way back. We wanted to scare him, to mess with him. But what happened next was not something I could have ever predicted. Instead of my friends waiting for me in the trees, there was a clown. His face was painted sloppily with white makeup, and he had red vertical stripes above and below his eyes. His mouth was smeared red, but whatever he had painted it with was still wet. Drool poured out from his lips as he smiled at me from his crouched-down hiding place in the foliage. He had on a white and red pinstripe clown suit, and it was spattered with gore. I saw my friends' bodies then. They had been torn apart, their throats ripped open, and something had been feeding on what was inside. The clown thing in the trees watched me, watching him, saw me, seeing the bodies of my dead friends, and he giggled. A high-pitched titter. I was too stunned to run away at first, then he stood from his shadowy place and began to take long, stalking strides towards me. His eyes were hypnotic, ancient, crystal blue. He pulled me in like a zoom-in close-up of an actor in a movie, making me want to go towards him. But I tore my gaze away with an effort when I heard Melvin's stuttering voice calling, "What? What is it? What's wrong?" I turned on my heel and ran. The clown was only a few feet away from me by that point, and he reached out with his long arms and almost grabbed me. But my terror was a living thing at that moment, pressing me forwards, pushing me from behind and making me run. Melvin hadn't seen it yet. The clown thing was just out of his view, hidden behind some trees. When I ran past him, he didn't follow. Just watched, hypnotized, as the thing came around the overgrowth and headed toward him. I was too terrified to look back at first, afraid that if it saw me looking, it would draw me back in towards it with those eyes. Those eyes that had briefly entranced me. The thing was not a person, I knew that much, even as a child. The curiosity became too much to bear when I heard Melvin's screams from behind me as I ran. I turned and saw the clown pulling him apart. He peeled him open like a cheese string. He took pieces from inside my friend and ate them, swallowing his organs whole. His horrifying eyes glanced up at me, and I backed away, but even from a distance I could feel his power. The thing was made of everything we were afraid of. Melvin's fear of a wolf that would eat him alive. My newfound fear of clowns. Somehow we had manifested this thing, and now it was intent on destroying us. Maybe this was our punishment for tormenting the kid for so long. But then why did he have to die? And not me? Doesn't make any sense. I still can't figure out why I was spared. Why my 3 friends had to die. Maybe now you understand why I was going to take this with me to the grave. Why I was never going to share this story with anyone. But I have to. It helps to get it out. It helps me not to feel so afraid. Because when I'm afraid, the things I'm scared of, they get bottled up, and after a while, the pressure begins to feel like too much. My nightmares start to seep out and escape into reality. And they always have a way of finding me.